ladies and gentlemen, if you're out there, I'm so excited to introduce you to this ray of sunshine sitting next to me. We've had a lot of great conversations, and I'm glad to bring one to you guys. So I've got Kendra Ongalibang from Miti Boards. Now, so much to unpack here. We were just hearing the origin story around your amazing business. So let's start with, you've been around since 2023.
Yes, November of 2023 is like when I sold my very first board. So,
and that came from your wedding, which was in October of 2023.
Absolutely correct.
Right?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that experience, because I think it's really important.
I have always had a passion for food, and I've also had a little bit of a control problem. So, weddings kind of bring the worst out in people when it comes to control. So when it came to that bridal time and me being ready before the wedding is done and set for me to walk out, I was trying to figure out something for me to do. So
get that energy out?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I don't want to be barking at people, and I can. And, I think that's why I'm so good in the kitchen. Sure. I can tell someone what to do. But it's a wedding. I wanted everyone to have a peaceful, fun time. So I decided I would just do our grazing table. Like, I had 60 people at my wedding, so not a big wedding, but I'm Samoan and people love to eat. So I wanted to make sure they had something that would last throughout that whole cocktail hour where we're not talking to them and taking pictures. I don't want to leave them bored and hungry. Yeah. So I was doing the grazing table, and after we came down from pictures, people were like, "Who did this? Can I get their information?" And I was like, "Girl, it was me." I'm like, "Pay me. Like, I'm your cousin. Hire me," And I think it was just one of those instances where I got so much encouragement from people who in my life tend to be a little bit more careful and non-indulgent of my whimsies. So to hear them say, "This is something you could do for a living, or at least on the side," it gave me a lot of encouragement. So I was just missing, I guess, the high that you get from that wedding time. And so I was like, okay, maybe I'll start an Instagram and put out there that I could sell some boards. My mom offered to her coworkers at Massage Envy, like, I can bring in a board for Friendsgiving.
Sure.
And she had her work order from me. It was my very first board I ever sold. And I posted it on Instagram, and it kind of just took off from there.
Yeah. And it's been doing really well. I mean, you're all over doing all kinds of things.
Thank you. Yeah. It's been a whirlwind for sure. I mean, the reception has been so great, and I'm very grateful for that. I am a desert local. I grew up here in Desert Hot Springs, actually. Graduated in 2011. So to come back home and to start a small business, it kind of is very heartwarming to receive that kind of reception from somewhere that I grew up.
Right. So I mean, I know it was kind of like a spur of the moment thing. You hadn't really been thinking about starting a business around food, but being in the kitchen and providing food is something that you really love to do. Like, you feel like it's an act of love.
Yeah, for sure. I am Samoan. That's a big centerpiece of my brand. Even my logo has the tanoa, which is a kava bowl. If you've seen Moana 2, where she's drinking like the drink without a little half coconut shell. It's a ceremony, like a hospitality ceremony, and hospitality in general is so deeply ingrained in me as a person and in my culture that I think it's just like innate in me to want to express my care for someone through feeding them. What's their favorite dish? What are things they hate? Are they a texture person? Like, are they sweets, savory?
Right.
Knowing those things and presenting those things has been a way of me communicating, like, I love you. It's also a way that my family kind of says I love you, because they're not that great at that. So but my grandma will always know, like, oh, like Kendra loves like brownies, and Kendra doesn't like pistachio things, and she's kind of been that like strong woman in my life that's made sure that I have the confidence to do anything. So when it came to starting the business, it wasn't necessarily me being afraid of starting it. It was just wondering, is there a market for this? Do people want this? And when that first reception of that board, I was kind of like, well, maybe this could be viable for part-time. And then in April of 24, I received a grant. And that's really what pushed me to the next level.
Okay. Tell us about the grant, because obviously that's a huge way for you to jumpstart your business.
Correct.
Because food costs money.
Start a business costs money, and I didn't come from a wealthy family. Sure. My dad is a first-generation American person. He worked at the post office. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. So I had very humble beginnings. I didn't want for anything, but I would say maybe high-end cheese is not necessarily something I grew up knowing about. You know, spending $60 on some cheese, is something that my dad would probably frown upon. But I think it's something that I enjoyed, like that luxury of food, that kind of being the way that I got that extra specialness out of life. So when I started the business, my real focus was on bringing that concept to the desert, of people being able to experience something luxury, something artful, something different, to their party guests or for themselves, you know. Like, I love celebrating myself with food. Like, if it's a celebration, if I accomplish something, we're going to eat. So I kind of wanted to bring that to others here. Because I know in LA, there's quite a bit of that. So when I decided, you know, I gotta start this business, I applied for a grant for Palm Springs. It was the joint grant with Visit Palm Springs and Caravanserai Project. The Caravanserai Project has probably been my number one supporter. They give you free mentorship, free business training, and I got $7,000 of grant money.
Wow.
Right off the bat, like I had maybe $2,500 in sales at the time, and they were just like, we love your concept. I think what really attracted them to me was I had my math right. My dad's a big money guy, so when I opened, I already had pricing ready.
You knew exactly what it was going to cost you.
Correct.
That's so important, because if they're like, we're going to give you this money, we need to know that you're going to do something smart with the money. And so that's a huge win.
Yes. But they got me to focus on things that I was like a little bit too scared to think about, you know, longevity, building a team, leading. Those are things that I guess I thought were way far ahead of where I was at. And they really helped me see that it comes as fast as you want it. I'm not saying that you can force or rush things. And I know, you know, being in business is all about grit and patience, but there is something about being able to just do. And I would say that's like my life challenge, is not overthinking. And being given this business training and that grant money was like almost like you have no choice, like in a positive way. You know, I think a lot of us trap ourselves in a you have no choice way, in a negative aspect.
Yes, exactly.
But it was like the universe was kind of like, you said you wanted this.
Here you
go, girl. And I was like scared. I'm excited. I'm meeting people who have had businesses for many years. I'm friends now with Bree and Bubba of On the Mark. And I'm like, how am I in the same cohort as you, right? Like, I am just one girl wanting to make pretty cheese boards. Like, I, you know, never saw myself as a fully fledged businesswoman and business owner, but there it was.
And you know, it's really funny thing, because it takes us a while to see who we are through other people's eyes. Right. So you say that, and I'm just a girl who wants to make pretty cheese boards, but no, you were a businesswoman who had a plan and did the things that you needed to do in order to get what you wanted. And you just happened to make really pretty cheese boards.
That part, yes. Actually, you know what? The more I've grown in my business journey as a business owner, not just an operator, but somebody who's wanting to build something that can also help support others. That mindset has really been like a big challenge for me, something that I really have needed to shift. Being able to lead others, provide a livelihood for others, means being confident and steadfast in what you're doing, and leading others is also something that requires a lot of humility. And building a business is all about that. It's teaching yourself to be unafraid of failure. It's teaching yourself to learn new skills, to not be easily embarrassed. And I grew up being bullied, so much so that I actually started an anti-bullying campaign in 2011. I went around the desert with a group of students, and we did a skit and presentation about bullying, and then a Q&A period. And now as a business owner, I realized as a 17-year-old, I started a beginning of a nonprofit. So I actually got funding from the Desert Hot Springs Rotary Club. They sponsored us to go and like have my counselor have a small stipend to take us all around the desert and like go to elementary schools and my former middle school. And then my old high school that I was attending asked me to do it. So I just never really like how you're saying, I never had that mindset of like, oh, like I could be an entrepreneur. Look at what I started. I was just like, I had something to say, and I wanted people to know that, you know, hurting each other is kind of the least of our worries, right? Like, especially in Desert Hot Springs at the time, the demographic was not like financially not that great for a majority of the students. Correct.
It still struggles. It's an area that struggles, definitely. And it sometimes those struggles bleed out into the children. Obviously they do always. And then that environment of bullying comes, like, you know, pretty heavy.
Right. Yeah.
But it's everywhere though too, right? And the idea that you can help change that by bringing awareness. And as a young person, it's different for an adult to say, listen, you guys should be nice to each other. Quit fucking being an asshole.
Yes.
But when it's your peer who's like, listen, this happened to me and it was really hard.
Even I was more speaking to like, hey, I'm here living in the same town as you. I know when we go home, it's not great. Yeah. I know when you go home, it's probably not going to be hugs and talking to you about school. You're probably getting treated the way you're treating me at home. And maybe we should look at it as 8 hours of peace. And that was my biggest thing. Like, wow. I'm the type of person that's like, let's not shift blame. Let's try to just create, you know, the space that we want. And I think that I've really kind of tried to bring that mentality of like, creating a space for someone in my business and like wanting people to feel seen, wanting people to feel loved through that attention to detail. Yeah. And because it was something that my grandma really showed me was like a way that was effective, because she would drag me around. I mean, as a kid, you feel like that. She would drag me around to all these family parties. I'm the only kid there. I'm like, oh my goodness, can we go home already? And she was like, no, Kendra, we have to be here to celebrate people. Like, it might be a birthday and it might be something small to you, but showing up for people makes a big difference. So when you have your graduation and all these people are there, it's going to be because we were there for them too. Yeah. And I think that...
What a good lesson.
Yeah. She's, I would say if there was a strong matriarch in our family, it was definitely my grandma. Even my mom, like she's so close with my mom too, being like, I know Kendra's very stubborn and hard-headed. That's just how we are as Samoan women. And my mom's more of a gentle girl, you know, she's a very sweet lady. And like I even in my ultrasound had like a fist up in the picture, because I just guess I was going to be a fighter from day one. Right. And my mom was like, I don't know how to handle this girl. My grandma was like,
I got you.
Yes, exactly. She's like, I'm going to show her how. This is just leadership and training. That's all it is. And I think for a while they kind of wanted to run away from it.
Well, that you do, because it's not easy, right? And you don't want to, you know, and it's hard and all of those things. But when you can look back on it and think, God, what a blessing to have had that experience and to have these strong women guiding me and teaching me and all of that, and creating that and the idea around food and caring for people is a way to show love, even if you don't say it.
Yeah. And then I think like the final piece is just having a father who, like, I always joke that I was socialized like a young man, but my dad really did not teach me anything other than the difference between you and someone who's doing better than you is how hard they're working. Like, he gave me blinders. Like, I didn't see that I was a woman. I didn't see that I was a woman of color. I didn't see that I came from a low socioeconomic background. I just saw that I was smart, I was capable, and if I liked it, I could do it. And he was the one that really was very adamant about challenging me when I felt less than or weaker than, or if things felt impossible. He was always, you know, behind me going, you're my daughter, of course you can do that. Right. You know, like you have it in you. It's just, do you want that? Are you determined enough? Yeah. Do you have the discipline? You know? And I think when I started this business and he kind of asked me all of the questions of, you know, pricing and do I think that this is a thing that is needed in the market?
Are you going to make money? How are you going to survive? You're making cheese boards.
Yes. Are you going to quit your job right now? That's crazy. Like, I was like, no, Dad, I'm not going to quit. But like I said, when I got that grant, I started getting more orders. They started giving me a little bit more publicity. I was able to build a lot of inventory. So I was unafraid to kind of promote myself. Yeah. I was able to get licensing. There's a really awesome permit called the Micro Enterprise Home Kitchen Operation Permit that actually...
Okay, say that one more time.
It's MEHKO. That's the acronym. Yeah. But it's MEHKO. Okay. And it's Micro Enterprise Home Kitchen Operation. Okay. And it's been a real game changer for, I think, a lot of the food business. If you've seen a lot more like pop-ups, like backyard cafes, home food businesses, because the County Riverside has decided to allow people with a health inspection, just like a regular restaurant, to operate a small food home operation in their home. So I can have one employee. If I wanted to, I could serve people like cheese and wine night out of my backyard. I don't want to do that, but it's just been quite a game changer. I think that has also allowed me to really find a lot of success and growth in my business because I'm not having to pay high overhead cost
because you can do it just about anywhere. And I'm sure that's a resource that people have never heard of.
Yeah, it's a newer thing. Yeah. And I think LA County specifically has just allotted a number of them. It's like a lottery system for them because there's such a large population. But here in Riverside County specifically, and especially the desert, I was in a grant program, a second one, that had a cohort number of 150. So 150 small businesses throughout the entire Riverside County that were able to create a more solid stream of revenue for themselves, possibly as an addition, or in my case, like a primary source of income. From their home. I'm paying the rent to live there. By the grace of God and by the help of my grandparents-in-law, we were able to purchase a home last May. Nice. It's been so cool to be able to operate this new business in this new home with my new husband and our new family. New
everywhere. Yeah. So that's so great. So it's been a good couple of years for you.
Yes. Yeah. It's been a true blessing, and I really can't be grateful enough to women like you who've had my back, or Noelle from Business and Bubbly.
Shout out to Noelle.
Yes, she's amazing. But I feel like there's just been such a strong female operated business community here in the desert specifically that has allowed me to launch in the way that I've launched.
I've definitely noticed that too. There is a very large group of women, and maybe they don't all intermingle, but it's kind of like circles like this, right?
Yeah, the Venn diagrams.
Yeah, and so it's they're always out there supporting the next person, that's even if they're similar businesses. It's like so much really positive support, and I've noticed that too as I've kind of like gone out into the world of like networking, if you want to call it that, but connecting, you know what I mean? Connecting with new women who have tried new things and done new things and failed at things and still kept trying and done all those things. And it's been really cool. And I noticed the energy is really positive around that.
Yeah. I think that has been among the things that I've already spoken about. Yeah. I think because as a business owner, your personal mental health is what really keeps everything running. As women like yourself, other women who have just been like, hey, like, take a breather, like, give me a hug, like, you're doing great, take a second. I know you're rushing, but that's okay. Things happen in life, keep your head, you're gonna be great. And hearing that over and over and over again, it really does change you. And to hear it in a genuine candor, I think that's also the biggest impact.
Well, your thoughts, it's almost like a muscle, right? Like if you're feeding negative thoughts into that muscle, like, then it will become negative, and it builds itself up really muscular and negative. And so then if you're feeding positive thoughts into that muscle, it also builds itself up to be positive. And it's such an important thing. But that being said, we can just be the happy energy people that we are all the time. But I know we struggle. Right. I struggle.
Yes, like it's almost like as if you guys know, or the universe knows, like I'm feeling down, I'm feeling upset, and I come see you guys. I'm at a networking event, or I'm just like I said, delivering a board to someone, and they're like, "You're so amazing. Did you know that? Yeah. You are just, this is beautiful. Like, thank you. I recommended you to X, Y, and Z. I hope they book you." Those small things have been what really keep me going. Yeah, you're right. In like the personal sense, because I can't always be on. I can't always self-sustain. I do need like nutrients. Right?
Because even if you're a person who owns a business and you do the work, right? It's still you're not alone. Right. You're not alone. You have your husband, you have your family that supports you, you have your friends, you have so nobody really does it alone. Right. And so you do pull that energy from the people that are around you. It's why it's important to surround yourself with good people.
Yeah. So, I think that's like almost been a very fulfilling thing about this business is I've grown up. I always joke like Samoan in America, my grandma really had a grip on our home, and I grew up speaking our language, dancing the dances, doing traditional things. Even at my wedding, my husband dressed in Ia Lava Lava, and he had his shirt off and he danced with me. And he really paid homage to my culture, and a big aspect of that is community, and being Samoan is so village driven. Like my grandma's always saying, but that's your family, or but they're Samoan too. Like you never know what someone's going through. And growing up, again, you get like eye rolly, like, okay, like, oh my gosh, no one's perfect, grandma. Like it's hard to think about everybody. But now, me being someone who I wouldn't be successful without the community supporting this business, that it's been integral to really bring that side of me out, which is like the connector, someone who's speaking to others, creating real relationships with my clients. I'm seeing people at some of their most vulnerable moments, not just like happy, but sometimes sad, sometimes stressful. And, you know, I think that service piece is so easy to bring to the customers, because I have a really, really strong internal motivation to make sure that people are connected and feel not alone. And that's something that I am so used to feeling, so used to doing, is reaching out and like asking for support. And after being married, and I have a stepdaughter who's now 17, just working through her own like qualms and struggles in her own internal self, I can really see how not feeling like you have a community of people to lean on when you know that you can't do it yourself, it changes how you operate.
Yeah,
and
100%.
Yeah, and like that's why I think I speak so highly. I'm like, you guys have just been so good at giving me a strong footing. And I think a lot of people, like you're saying, because it's a business you build yourself, try to isolate. And in fact, that's probably why a lot of businesses die early on. Because they're not. It's like it's nutrients. Not sustainable.
Yeah, it's no nutrients. It's like you can't just feed like with food. Like you have to feed with energy, and you have to feed with positivity. Like it's a real thing. Yeah, it's a real thing.
That's why I'm so passionate about food, because I'm like, it represents so much for us. It's, you know, like when you speak about like feeding your soul, you know, you speak about giving nutrients to your heart and your body and your mind, you know, that's the same thing that you do with food. And I think that Cheese Boards is also like the way that me and my family have been able to gather and eat without feeling like we're ruining our health.
Sure.
Samoan people are probably the number one demographic of diabetes, like disease holders in the United States. And a big part of that is diet. And because a lot of, like I'm saying, our family gatherings, friendship gatherings are based around food. So Cheese Boards and grazing has also been a way for me to spend time with my family, my siblings, without us, you know, ruining our health. And so I'm so passionate about connecting people with this small thing of food. And I think the aspect of grazing is so beautiful, because it gets people to get up, it gets people to talk
and stand around and do the thing. And then it's like, listen, you're full at the end of it, but it's not like you ate so much food.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you keep saying Cheese Board, and I just want to, like, if you don't follow her yet, you have to follow her, because they're not cheese boards. It's literally like, I was watching what you were doing with I think, was it a fig or something the other day? Like, and the fig butter, was it fig butter?
Yeah, I was just doing a play, yes.
I don't know. I don't care. It was like gorgeous. I'm like, what the hell? Like, it's so pretty. You take your attention to detail is just absolutely gorgeous. And you're bringing in all these beautiful elements that, you know, when you look at it on the surface, it's almost like, can I actually eat everything that's on there? And yes, you can.
Yes, I always joke with people that the tasting good came first and the looking good came second.
Yeah.
But I, like, as a person, like, just me, not speaking about like the influences on me, but me as a young girl, I grew up obsessed with Food Network. Like, I would be getting in trouble.
Said no other little girl ever.
Yeah, no, seriously. Like, what 8-year-old is getting in trouble because they're staying up at 11 p.m. to watch Iron Chef? And my mom's like, go to sleep. And I'm just like watching people like make things in 2 hours and compete with like these gorgeous dishes.
What did he say? What did he say, the Iron Chef? What was it?
Ale cuisine. Yeah, no, like I
That's so funny.
was just sucked into the world of food so early. I would beg my dad, like, I saw this recipe on Rachel Ray's 30-minute meals. Can I make it for us, please? And my dad would be like, I guess, like, this is a random habit and a random hobby, but okay, like, at least it's productive for us. And, I just thought my whole life, like, okay, this is just like a side thing. I'm just so obsessed over food. I'm very particular. Like, I can look at something and know if it's made right because of texture, because of components that may be there or not. Those are things that I care about so much. So when you're talking about that attention to detail,
yeah. So I don't mean to interrupt you, but I want to ask you this question. So obviously you love food, you've done all the things, and you didn't start till just 2 years ago deciding this was going to be what you did for a living.
Yeah.
So did you ever think that you would actually do this for a living, like leading up to that, or was it really just like a hobby and a love for you?
There was a point I did when, like you're in that 16, 17-year-old age. Your family is going, what are you going to do? What are you going to do when you go to college?
I'm going to do cheese boards.
Yeah. I was thinking about going to culinary school, and my grandfather, actually, that was his profession. He was the lead chef for his entire career. Retired as one of the lead chefs at Paula Oceanside Resort Casino in Oceanside. And, he was like, no, do not be a chef. You won't have time for family. You had a hard time seeing me growing up. If you are a family person, and I know you are, you want to grow up and have a family, have kids, I do not suggest that for you. And you're the mother, just the kids come out of our body. So I get what he was saying, It's not necessarily that my family wouldn't encourage me working,
right?
But that
is a real thing. Working in a restaurant.
Yes. And so
a very taxing, long thing.
Yeah, arduous. There's a lot of, like, I always tell people I'm not a chef because people will, like, overnight be in the kitchen working on their skill, like developing courses, like like the attention to detail I give is like an homage to that, because I really respect the art of food. The culinary arts are real to me, and so I wanted to do it in a capacity, but the way I was discouraged kind of made me feel like, no,
it's not for me.
He was right. I'm not a person that wants to be in the kitchen 24/7, 365.
Yeah.
I eat, breathe, sleep, whipped cream. Like, I do love food, but I am such a family oriented person. I love being there for birthdays and celebrations. And
so this business allows you to do both, which is such an important thing about being a business owner.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real. Like, it's not like you get all the free time. Like, your business needs you, but
yes,
it does allow you to kind of work that into your schedule.
Yeah. It's one of those, I know it's a little bit overly optimistic, this phrase, but if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And I know it is work, but I'm so grateful to do it. Like, I've never been so happy to be tired in my entire life, I know.
I've seen you running from one event and like onto the other one to bring stuff and doing all that stuff. So you really obviously love it very much. Best advice you could give somebody who's looking to do something that they might be a little afraid to do?
Don't think. Just do. Like, the thinking is the part that's ruining you. Like, just act. And you know what? I always say, if you have a little heart of a push, act like a man. Men just do. And I love that about my father. When he thinks of something, he just does it. And he's encouraged me to be like that my whole life. And so when I see other women who I'm like, you're just as good as me. You're so talented. If anything, you have like an amazing presence, like stronger than mine. What's holding you back? And I just realized, oh, you just never had a man in your corner going, you and me, same. And I think that mindset of me just doing and not being embarrassed or not caring if I'm going to be embarrassed, I would say typically is attributed to men. And I say, just do it. Literally just action. Think later. And you will realize like, oh, that wasn't as scary as I thought it was.
Yeah, it's really true though. Men are encouraged to just keep trying, and it's okay if you fail. I mean, and I think it doesn't always have to be that way. Like when you have your daughters or whatever, or you can encourage them to do the same thing. But that is historically like, don't mess up, don't be too loud, and you go do what you should be doing. We know that you're not going to fail at. You go do that.
Yeah, like very appearance based. You're right. Like I truly think that is the difference. Like men are encouraged to embarrass themselves and ask for forgiveness later. If women are asked to never or to be flawless. And I wasn't raised that way. My dad was I don't care if you're a girl, you're the oldest. You need to set an example for your siblings, create something for this family that can live on. Like you are our legacy. I'm married, but I did have you introduce me by my maiden name because that is something again, that's just been ingrained in me. Thankfully, Samoan culture is matriarchal, so I think that's just been kind of.
I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised.
So I think my dad just innately knew, like, I have a young daughter. She's the oldest. She's going to be a leader.
Right.
Of course she would be.
Yeah. She's
in charge of 3 younger siblings.
Yeah.
I'm the oldest of my mom, who's also the oldest. And so it was almost assumed I would be leading something. And I think that's small, like those are such small mindset shifts that, yeah, you're right. Like if you are struggling now, practice doing that for your kids, your daughter. You'll find it how easy it is to to almost have to be that example back.
Yeah.
That's what's really pushed me too. My daughter, Kyrie, she asked me one day, like, how do you get motivation, Kendra? And I was like, what the heck? That's a crazy question. I don't know, I guess. The more I thought about it, she like lit a fire under me on accident, because I started to question, like, what motivates me? What makes me excited? What makes me want to work hard? And I do love building and constructing things. I love taking something and setting it out for everyone to see and watching it like kind of grow itself. And my daughter reignited that interest for me. And since being in her stewardship and really like being a person that's allowed to guide her, you know, by the grace of her mom and her dad, that I've been able to kind of instill that in her as well. Yeah. Like, you know, it's okay to be loud. It's okay to be strong. It's okay to be very opinionated. It's okay to be not agreeable. Yeah. Those things that's like a socialization thing, but that's just because of the culture she grew up in. She's a classic American girl. She's got beautiful green eyes and was born with blonde hair. And so I think she's grown up in a culture, where women are to be viewed and to be pretty and beautiful. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that the freedom of choice to be one way or the other is what we all would like. And so for her, I think it's just been really beautiful to exemplify that, like, strong, very, very bold women are equally loved by all. Yeah. And to see the reception that I get from other business owners, from other chefs who are like, I'll recommend you to my clients because what you do is on par with what I do. I'm like, I can't believe it. Like, I have a mentor who owns a couple of restaurants and she's telling me I'm great. Like, I always have to remind myself and remind my daughter, it's because I'm like this. It's because I'm unapologetically me. It's because that's what it is right there. You are authentic. You are authentic in exactly who you are. And by being so, then all of the things that come to you because of your authenticity. Yeah. And that's 100% true. And that should always be the goal for everybody, is to be your authentic self, because as you do that, then everything else falls into place. Yes. It's when you try to mold yourself to things that aren't who you are, that there's failure and things like that. And I think that's also like, you know, that's how you can set yourself apart. Yeah. I think when you're building a business, you always are asked that question, like, how are you different from the other people who are doing what you do? Yeah. You are doing it. Yeah. There's no other you. Exactly. And that's why I had my anti-bullying campaign. I spent a lot of my childhood running away from me and trying not to be me. Yeah. So, to be in this position, I truly, like I said, I couldn't be more grateful, more humbled in a great way to know that, like, being my truest self has brought me the most success I've ever had in my life. I've made more money now than I've ever made at any job position I've ever had. That's amazing. And you're only like 2 years and some change in. Yeah. Well, how do people, what would be the best way for them to reach out to you to incur your services? I would say my website, www.mitiboards.com. That's MITI boards.com. Miti is, I was just going to ask you, because I've been saying Miti and that's terrible. That's okay. That's okay. It is a play on words in Samoan language. Miti means dream. So love that. It is dream board. Oh yes, and I that's what I hope to create, is everyone's dream board. Well, so it's amazing, and you're definitely doing that. I could sit here and talk to you for like 7 hours, but I know. I'm like, thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. Real quick, shout out to Kaylee Nicole, because we're like wearing her Kaylee Nicole
everything here. So
I was concerned about what to wear, so I just wore the outfit that she gave me. She styled this whole thing and even told me about the bow. This is my own, but yeah, shout out to Kaylee Nicole. She's brought the confidence out in me more, because now I feel like I look how I feel. So
there's so many amazing women out there, and so glad that you're one of them. Oh, I hurt you, babe. Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate you. All right. Next time.